Hey you guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today we are going to be doing like the Jubilee reaction, the trans debate between the conservative trans people and then the liberal trans people. Well, they're not all trans. I've already watched this, but I really like in my brain as I was going through this, I had like a lot of things in my mind that I was garnering while I was seeing them debate. And I just have a lot of things to say about these certain individuals, like the one behind me, in this debate that I just have I just have opinions on. And of course, I also say if people were to become a member, I would just do this for members only. Since no one did not join the membership, I'm just gonna do probably like a little bit of the debate, not all of the debate, and I will be just reacting to the things that like I want to react to basically until I get tired. And also I'm very sick right now, so please bear with me. I'm very sniffly. I'm very I'm very that right now. So like if you don't like that, just exit the video now. But anyways, I'm going to get started.
Restroom looking like this. You can look at me.
It's just interesting. I thought this was a trans debate. That's what I thought.
Exactly.
Now, whether people fall under the trans umbrella, so I don't know. Maybe you can educate yourself a little bit.
I think I can educate
then
you.
you figure out, you know what.
Blair is so funny, bitch. Throughout this whole entire thing, Blair does not give a fuck. And I
It is a
live.
safety concern for trans women to share a female restroom. Can the
Okay. For this one, for this prompt, I would be walking up. Because, like, we all know that it is a safety concern for women to be in the restroom with men, especially self ID men. You know, like, I think there's another thing with, like, actual trans people, but at the same time, I think that the community has made such a fucking joke of themselves that they allow like anybody to go into the restroom now. It doesn't matter if you have surgery or not. And we already know like I'm against that. I think that trans people should have their own spaces, you know, or like get in a family restroom or something like that that only has like one toilet. Have respect for other people, especially women. Women are very like they're not the same as men, obviously, especially when it comes to strength. We all know this.
agreeers please step forward?
Oh. So I think that to start off though too is it's not necessarily saying that trans women. It all comes down to self ID. When we moved into a self ID process, there are a lot of people, there are a lot of men, just simply self IDing into being trans women to utilize the female restroom and to harm women.
Exactly.
Be there. They're getting arousal from just being there.
You know, there's a photo or it was a video that went viral. I think like just 2 weeks ago with some like whole man with a boner in the women's restroom, and there's just some poor.
And I found that fucking disgusting. Okay.
For woman filming it, like, am I just supposed to like accept that this is here? So I think there's levels to it. I think that trans women who are actually trans, you know, we're talking gender dysphoria, transitions, making the effort, you know, probably once you reach a certain point in your transition where you can actually assimilate within that space and not cause a disruptance, that would probably be the ideal time to start doing that, right?
And I agree with Blair on that one. Like I think that if you aren't at least passing to, you know, look like a woman or look like the opposite sex, like you shouldn't be in the women's restroom as a biological man. Like even vice versa for a woman, like you shouldn't be in the men's restroom if you don't look like a man. Like, you know, honestly, I feel like that if you aren't at par with your transition, you should pick the individual stall, or you should pick you know, you should just stay in the bathroom that your biological sex was when you were born. So I think that would be the right thing to do.
Whereas, you know, a cross-dresser who is emboldened to, in this current climate, say that they're trans because now anything is trans if you say so, that person should probably stay absolutely out of women's restrooms because you're there to get your locks off and the women are there to take a poop and a pee. So it's not the same. And you know, I really empathize with women who, you know, have an issue with it, and I can probably hear some women commenting, well, how do I know the difference between a fetishist and a real trans person? It's hard. it's hard.
It's very
However,
hard. Yep.
that's the only nuance that I know to give to it, which is there's different reasons people are trans, and some people really are trans because they're horny, and some people are trans because they really felt that way from.
This is so true. Like I think people always think that like trans people, the only reason why they transition is simply because they feel like they're in the wrong body, and that's simply not the case. I've known trans people, especially trans women, that literally grown up and they wanted to be a girl because the boys wasn't attracted to them. So what they do, they'll as they grown up, they would transition to get more boys to like them and also like the aesthetic of what a woman is. And honestly, I don't believe that's actually trans. Like I feel like that you didn't grow up with no gender dysphoria or something like that. Like and you just doing it for basically for men to like you or something like that. I think it's a fetish. And you know what's so funny? The person that I learned that one from, the first person I learned that from, their experience was T.S. Madison. She talked about that a lot about like how she um, transitioned because of she wanted men to be more attracted to her as a woman, and not as a gay man. Um, so I don't know if her stance has changed on that or whatever like that, but that's something I used to listen to, like coming from her. So who knows? I mean, she's like so woke now, and like she just goes along with whatever the woke mob says. So maybe her stance has changed, but that's what I heard, and from other trans people too.
A young age or whatever.
See, I agree to an extent. Like when you go to transition, and this is a fairly universal experience. Once you get to a certain point of passing, that's about the time that you would start going into the other bathroom as opposed to not make the same sex uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
Once you reach that point in your transition, a lot of things change, but you start to see things from another perspective. You start to see things from the perspective of a cis person.
Yeah.
And I actually offer some solutions to this because I believe the free market can handle all of this stuff. Because
I love
in
Sarah
government
too.
run and government funded buildings, there should always be a third space for us to use.
Mm-hmm.
And I do when I go to the Capitol and stuff like that. I always use third spaces. But I think that private property owners can make the rules for their establishment and figure out how to enforce those rules.
I mean, I wouldn't say third spaces for trans
exactly.
people.
Like we're in a state right now. We're in a state right now where you have to allow anybody to use whatever restroom they want.
If you're a decent human being,
the
you do what causes the least disturbance. So, for example, I filmed a YouTube video a few years ago where I entered a men's restroom just because I was just trying to comment to her like, well, maybe you should use a men's restroom if you really feel like the way you feel. And so I said,
and
okay,
I watched
that
video.
And I was kicked out within seconds of the entire establishment.
She
and
passes.
Ruckus. So that's what I mean by if you're a decent person, you do what causes the least amount of problems for people around you. And if you're, a moral person, you're going to be conflict avoidant in general when it's something like that, right? It's like, what's the point of causing issues for anyone, especially you're really just trying to pee,
just
get it done.
Right.
Tend to disagree.
See, hearing it from Blair, I like that because like there is a lot of trans people out here who just very narcissist, and like I've said before in the past, like I feel like that sometimes being trans can be like a vanity disorder rather than like a mental like a dysphoria, like a gender dysphoria disorder. Like I think that like some of them, it's always about them, their looks, their aesthetic. Of course, they should worry about their looks because that's what's involved with gender dysphoria. But I think that these people they don't ever consider anyone else out there in the world, especially the self-ID people or the people who claim to be non-binary or people who don't pass at all and just want to go in there just to like get a boner from women or whatever like that. They lack self-awareness, you know what I mean? And the ones who lack self-awareness, they should not be in the women's restroom, especially if you're biological male. That's just how I feel about that.
Please step forward.
I want to comment on Blair's point. The one thing I kept hearing through all of the nuance is passability. Because ultimately, when we talk about passability, it determines how you get harassed in the bathroom. Because honestly, if you don't look so passable or whatnot, people are going to say, oh, that's a man with a dress on, and then there's going to be discourse. But the reality of it...
Well, if there's going to be some type of issues like that, maybe you should work on your transition, right? Maybe you should work on your transition. I mean, people are going to be weirded out. Some fucking big ass linebacker goes into the women's restroom and then expect for them to address that person as a girl, they wouldn't have any issues if they did pass. Just saying.
Is honestly, who cares who's trans and who's cis going in the bathroom? You should be minding your own business, being
Women
able to
care.
pee and do your business
Women
in
care.
peace for the most part. That conversation around this man with a boner on or whatever like that, I saw that picture and I thought to myself, that's really a right-wing talking point and conservative propaganda because that's their ideology. When it comes to trans, I'm speaking.
Right.
That's their ideology when it comes to trans. Because
She's so
conservatives
aggressive.
have a basic level understanding of what transness is in the first place. And
Child, here's the thing with Blossom. You're so stuck in your echo chamber. You act like that regular people don't know what a trans person is. Like for the majority of how lunacy have how this lunacy have been happening, um, even the average normie knows what a trans person is. Okay, and they know the difference too. And especially with things like what is a woman and stuff like that, what we've learned from Matt Walsh is what you call. I'm pretty sure a lot of them are very educated on what being trans is and where it came from, and all this kind of stuff that has been indoctrinated into different, have been put in school to indoctrinate children and stuff like that. So I feel like people are very educated on this, and I don't think that it's just like a conservative talking point or like a propaganda talking point. I've seen people even on the left even talk about how men shouldn't self ID and be going to women's restrooms, and then they end up being assaulting women. So it's not propaganda; it's real shit.
with all due respect, I do not think any of you are basic, but they use you as the baseline to amplifying this propaganda.
How is it propaganda if it's a thing that really happened? It was caught on video. Like it was an actual occurrence. It wasn't staged. It happened, and that's not the only. It's not an isolated incident.
And I really hate that people on the left, they always think that just because you have a different opinion or that you criticize the LGBT community, that it's always like the right wing people, they are using you. Like, no, like this is my voice, this is my words. No one's putting on a fucking platform to speak this. I am putting myself on the platform to speak about this, just like Blair White. So it just makes no sense how they always think that us gays or trans people that are quote unquote conservative, we're being paid or we're in a group like these people are. These people, they go in organizations with leftist woke LGBT organizations, and they're controlled. They're the ones who's coaching them to say all the right things to people and to brainwash them. So it's kind of ironic.
That's not enough for me to say because actors can do that. Who knows? They could have been an actor trying to make a point against
not
trans
a fucking
people.
actor, bitch.
But this has always been our.
They always love hypotheticals. They always love to make up shit.
With your talking points, I did understand what you were saying. I just got the word passability out of there, and
which I didn't say that word at all.
No, I'm saying
he said passability. I'm saying she didn't say it. He did. And the problem, the left.
Okay, I can't. I couldn't hear. I just couldn't hear back there.
The liberals always use the.
Yeah. No, what I'm saying is, I'm not saying you said that word. What I was getting out of what you were saying, the one word that was coming to me was passability. This is Blossom saying it. And so passability politics is really a thing in our trans community, especially when we come to the debate of restrooms.
Well, you can say it's politics, but actually it's just real life, right? It's just about where you're able to assimilate to and where you're not. And I think one of the biggest problems in the trans community is the community by and large has seemed to reject assimilation and seems hell-bent on...
That's not true.
I think it's absolutely true.
Very true.
Which is, you see people talking about how you don't need to work on your transition at all to enter women's restrooms. And I think that is so selfish. It's so disregarding of women who may or may not feel uncomfortable.
But the trans woman experience is not monolithic. So who are we?
Because they don't care about women. They don't care. They don't really care. They claim that they care, but they don't care. Like, they only care about themselves. They're narcissists.
To police transness. Why are we policing other people's trans?
I'm just listening to women.
They have to protect women.
Why are y'all policing, though? That's what I don't understand.
If you're using words that we're not using, it's not policing. We're listening to women. And if you have 50%, we won't say 50%, but if you have a large chunk of the population of women saying that they are uncomfortable with a certain thing, a good person leans in and listens,
So
they
why are
don't
you
just
not listening
reject
to
it.
other trans women,
Exactly.
Blair?
I do all day. I am right now.
But you didn't.
I am right now.
And I'm not trying to be combative or whatever like that. I'm just trying to
Yes, the
figure
fuck
out,
you are.
you know what I'm saying, what the middle ground will be between you and I, because you said one side and that's great, but what about the side of trans women? If we're not bringing both sides into this conversation,
Here's what I would say
then it is unbalanced.
Here's what I would say then, because I do understand both sides. I didn't, I'm almost a decade into my transition, which means I was one time a year in, 6 months in, 2 months in.
Right.
So I understand that, but I also knew at the very beginning of my transition that if I'm not at a place physically where I'm not making people feel uncomfortable, or I'm making people uncomfortable, then that's on me. That's my responsibility to make sure that I'm going places a certain way to make sure that they're comfortable.
Because it's for your safety.
And you know something, I relate to this so much because, like, me wearing makeup and stuff like that, like, I can obviously I can take this, I can put this on and take it off. Obviously, duh. I'm not trying to equate that I'm trans, or like I'm trying to equate this to transness because I'm not. But there is always a place and time for everything, and like if I go to a job interview, I'm not wearing like blush and like lipstick and all that kind of stuff. I'm being natural and being myself. I want to like. It's always a place and time for things, especially when it comes to work or anything like that. And it's called being courteous. And it seems like the trans community, they don't understand, like, it's always a place and time, there's a place and time where you need to like know that you are ready to go in women's spaces, and when you are not, if you don't pass, don't fucking go in the women's restroom. It's called being considerate and respectful person of other people instead of being a fucking narcissist all the fucking time. That's what grinds my fucking gears about these people sometimes.
Also, too, right?
Well,
But you also
you
say
can-
that your safety,
I know that
plays a part.
you seem to be looking at through the lens of always trans being the priority. I'm looking at through the lens of women being the priority here.
Because she's not
there's plenty of
narcissist.
situations.
Why? I just want to know
Because
why
it's them who would fall victim to not actual trans women, as I said, but people posing as trans women, people who are
But trans
active
women are
Right.
also victims of that as well.
I'm sorry. I would love it if
This bitch.
you and have said your piece, and I would
Yeah.
love to
Yeah. I just want to make this.
I'm just so
point. I
sick
just
of
wanna
like
make this
the
point about trans women
moderators.
also
Shut the fuck
experience
up.
violence and also
No
need that
doubt.
protection, and so
That's
that's
true.
the thing. Like, it should be an even playing field. I'm not saying you're wrong, but what I'm saying is I would like to challenge you to expand to make sure you're being inclusive of both sides or whatever, because we have to have these important conversations between cis women and trans women.
I mean, I'm just.
But here's the thing, though. Like, who's being more affected with this right now? With men being self-ID'd into the restroom. It's women. Like, women are being the brunt of this lunacy that you guys are allowing out there. So, like, trans activists and stuff like that are allowing out there. So, like, if to put your transness in the forefront, then women, that's narcissistic. That's like you're very inconsiderate kind of fuck. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's not always about you. Yes, trans women do get you know killed and harassed and stuff like that in some instances. But I swear to God, like, if you passed and it was obnoxious, maybe that kind of shit would not happen. And also, if you stop going out with these men that you know that are DL, that don't want to publicly be with you, you probably wouldn't be in those fucking situations, right? So it always comes back to like your responsibility as a human being. At the end of the day, you can't blame everybody else for what you do and what situations you get yourself into, right?
I'm gonna say, and I'm not gonna just say cis women. I'm gonna say women, biological women. I want to make it inclusive of everyone.
I think the middle ground, though,
Inclusion
is, and I
can't be
feel like
for
I'm not
everybody.
coming at this from an
Everybody
extreme
can't be
place.
included.
I feel like an extreme place would be like no trans women in the bathroom ever. That's the extreme
And no one's
position.
saying that.
I'm saying
Right.
work on your transition, take it as your responsibility, and be respectful. And that's the middle ground,
Simple.
right?
This is a self-preservation issue, right? So if somebody's in the bathroom and they have a boner, that looks bad on all of us. And when our community's not calling that out and not saying that this is wrong,
How many? I'm just
It doesn't matter how many cases. I'm so sick of this shit. It doesn't matter. Women are being affected. That's what matters.
There are Twitter accounts.
Sorry, like, I just want to make this in the back.
Yeah.
It's everywhere.
I mean, there's Twitter accounts with millions of followers that show this stuff multiple times a day. And so we're showing that these types of things do actually cause harm to trans people. So if you're looking at it a trans lens and to say, what are we doing? We need to combat that stuff and come together to combat
it
that
does
stuff.
not encompass the entire trans experience.
No,
That's true. Yeah.
I think I see a lot of different points from everybody here. Honestly, like I can understand like how some women may feel
Look at this fucking
unsafe
clown.
with men in there in the restroom.
Why are you even speaking?
When I say men, I mean men. I'm not talking about trans women. So being a non-binary person that sometimes has the choice to either go into a men's restroom looking like this.
No one asked you to look like that. No one asked you to put on a clown outfit. I'm sorry. Like, you chose to put on that makeup. You chose to look obnoxious. If you look obnoxious and you look fucking wild, people are going to look at you crazy. When I go out and I wear makeup, no one's blinks an eye. No one cares. Like, I get more compliments than anything. Men hold the doors for me. Do they hold the door for you? Is that what you want? You want some man to hold the door for you, don't you, bitch? That's why you got all that makeup on. You want that. You want some attention. That's what it is. Like, this person wants attention so bad that they want to feel included in the trans community, but they cannot, and they know they cannot. So they have to make up some lunacy bullshit to make everyone think that, like, they are part of it, but they're not. That's the issue with non-binary people nowadays. Period. Like, you just want attention and you're obnoxious, and then you want to complain about like how people are perceiving you and how people are treating you in real life. You look fucking wild. You look insane. You need to do something about that, sweetheart.
Like this. You can look at me. Look at me like this.
Oh, we're looking. We can see you.
That's what I thought.
We can see you.
Yeah, so I don't know. You can educate yourself a little bit.
I think
On what?
Then you figure out.
And you're a man in a clown costume?
I'm sure there's a non-binary Jubilee episode.
Well, because it's not a debate about who is really trans and who is not.
It can be.
She's so pretty.
As a trans
Bitch.
non-binary person, when I go into a place that only has men's and women's restrooms, and I'm dressed like this, my choice to go into the men's restroom at that point puts me in danger.
6 years ago, when I
Take off the clown outfit. Do a natural beat. Be a chameleon. Stop looking foolish. Maybe no one or your life wouldn't be in danger. You look like a clown. Okay?
was transitioned almost 8 years ago, but 6 years ago, it was never an issue for me to use the women's room. Girls would literally drag me in there with them and say, "Girl, you need to be in our bathroom." And I was like, I felt uncomfortable back then. I don't pass. I know I don't pass, so that's a me problem. And I'm not going to turn my
problem because, honey,
fear.
I'm sorry, Miss Jessica. I'm sorry. You need to get you a good old long blonde natural wig, bitch. And them knees, bitch. You should always wear pants. And I know that, like, you're on the conservative side, quote unquote conservative side, but sweetheart, never wear a short wig ever again, and never wear your knees out ever again. Because I clocked you from a mile away. Just so you know.
Of being attacked in the men's room into a woman's problem. It's still a me problem. So I need to work on myself. And it
at
sucks.
least you're self-aware.
Yes, it sucks. I don't pass. I know I don't pass. But I still respect women enough, and
That's great.
Some trans people aren't capable of handling themselves against a man, but I'm confident in my ability to do that. Not everybody can. I get that. But it's just now, 6 years ago, I used to use the women's room. Now I don't, because women have spoke out. They've come out and said, we're not comfortable. There's too many self-ID people out there just taking advantage. And I choose to use the men's room to protect them.
Well, that's great.
I can definitely actually
almost
empathize with a lot of trans women and their experience in the bathroom. And a lot of...
I hate this fucking big-ass blob, okay? Because I hate people's demeanors when they come into, like, conversations like this. They have to, like, sound like a victim. Like, oh, my God, like, you guys, like... I'm about to tell you about my experience because I'm just such a sad, depressing person. Like I just really hate people who act like that. Like, bitch, just stop playing, okay? Just stop playing. Be yourself. Just stop.
The turmoil with going in, and especially with Passability, but the layer
This
that I
person, an
feel like
evil
in the
person, you can just
conversation is
tell. You
missing
can
here
feel
is
it.
actually trans men. And also the fact that I
See?
was born biologically female, and a lot of the things that trans women experience of violence in the bathroom is what I experienced as a child. So the reason why my education here is not necessarily to create an idea that I need to conform to Eurocentric standards. Myself, I'm a 6 foot tall trans man, size 13 shoe, so I don't fit into the Eurocentric standards of what a woman is, and I never did as a child.
You never fit in with your womanhood because you were born a woman with long limbs and long feet. Like, there are many big women out here that's even in basketball, and they live their life as women. They fit in as women. Yes, in high school, whatever like that, people could be mean. Like, people call me fat. Like, never was about my sexuality, but it was about me being fat. But I fit in with the boys still. I was still a boy. I was still considered a boy. Just because you are insecure, people making you insecure about things about your body, doesn't mean you're not your biological sex.
Bullied relentlessly for this and isolated from many spaces. So
I'm
this
so annoyed because I'm
discussion
sick
about
too.
trans women being in the restroom also affects biological women, because guess what? Biological women come in all shapes and sizes. There are
Okay,
a
I'm
lot of
happy you know
lesbian
that.
women that deal with this issue that I've
Why do you
related
transition
with
then?
and
Who's
empathize,
insecure
because we
about
both
that?
get pulled out of the restroom and thrown, and guys try to beat us up because we're in a restroom with women. And then on top of it, to add
But
that
those men are
layer
stupid.
that it's not even being discussed in any mainstream, that this is just completely wiped out, and that you're standing up for women, but you're not standing up for women children. You're not standing up for biological females that are children. You're only standing up for what really affects you. And it's kind of sad that the idea that passability is you need to work on your transition. A lot of folks, especially in our community, have no access to finances, resources, jobs to even get their foot in the door, to get access to hormones. So you're putting.
Well, too bad, so sad. I'm sorry, but like, life is unfair, like, sometimes life is not fair, and not everything that you strive or want to be, you can't be. I'm sorry. Like, I know it's really hard for like trans women to like, demasculate themselves and to become very feminine and fish, but um it sometimes it just doesn't work out like that. Like, you life isn't fair. You're gonna have to like respect other people's, like, spaces if you're trying to appropriate a different sex, so like you have to like just learn that not everywhere is going to be for you, not everything's going to be for you, period.
All of these barriers just for them to be able to go to the restroom, which is a natural thing that we all have to do. So what do I need to do? Piss outside? Because that's how I was treated my entire childhood.
I would. I just feel like when this whole
I like the Blair said I would. uh yes, just because you was treated like that in your childhood, that is very unfortunate, but it does not mean that like that raises your biological sex, and that you wasn't a woman, that you like, okay, you didn't fit in with the hot skinny short girls when you was younger, so that means that you wasn't a woman. Like, no, you are a woman. Sorry.
topic comes up, like it obviously goes back to like there's dudes like jerking off in the bathroom, and like to me, like when I hear that, I'm like, okay, like, but that's not trans women. So when we talk about this conversation, and it seems like the fear is like literally cisgender straight men who are being creeps. And
And
what
who say
sucks
cis?
is
It's biological
cis
man.
straight men can be like creepy, and then it's like trans women, trans men are like paying the price for that. And I feel like, you know what, that's what's really hard about it, is because then I think people get the idea, or some people have the belief, trans women are just like, they're just men in dresses, you know what I mean?
Well,
But at the end of the
they
day,
are.
like, for so many trans women and so many trans men, the safest place
It's not
for them is
wrong,
the
but
bathroom that
know what
aligns
you
with
are.
their gender. And if you go to a place where it's illegal to do that, or you have to go and like, what's your ID or like your birth certificate, it puts you in an objectively unsafe situation. And for me, like, I'm like, if I walk in the women's room, I mean, I
You
know
won't
I
feel
like
like
look
that
like
if you
like
passed.
12, but like I feel like someone be like, get out of here, you know what I mean? But like, that's the vibe. Like, I think you got to remember, like, when we're talking about it and we're talking about like these creepy dudes like in the bathroom.
Here's the middle ground. Here's the middle ground. You got ready? We're gonna be so happy with this. This is the middle ground. We all actually agree. It's men that are the problem.
Yeah.
It's not trans women, real trans women. However, the problem is our community has really eroded any barriers to actually being trans, in the sense of your average cross-dresser can identify as a trans woman.
But
Right.
it's not a trans woman.
Well, I'm glad you feel that way. I feel that way as well. I agree with you wholeheartedly. However, with the state of the political correctness within the trans community, you can't really say that. Like, that person
Right.
is,
Is this person
and
saying
their
they're
self-ID.
No, I
No, they
agree.
say that they're trans. but
I
they're
actually,
not.
I actually
Right.
agree with you, Blair, 100%. Because
Oh, wow.
that's one of those things. Yo, I told you, I'm
Let's
really
go.
like that. And the reason why I said it is because sometimes when we self-identify, some people can take advantage of that, and that is something, unfortunately, that we cannot control. But we have to combat it with facts, with research, and with the information that's presented in front of us. It seems like we're the ones that's
You don't
teaching
need
everybody
research
else
to
because
do
we
that.
live in
It's
a
just
predominantly
common sense,
world.
which you
We're
lack.
teaching them about us. And I just really think we cannot afford to be intellectually
Well, then be the best
dishonest
examples and stop
about our
allowing men.
experiences as trans
Stop the
people.
self
There's
ID
something that I think we
agenda.
can do. There's solutions.
Then you'll be
to
fine.
this. Like, I do think like something like you have to be on hormones or something like that for 2 years or something before you can even change your ID. Like
Now I like
across
that.
the board.
That's
That
good.
would eliminate the cross-dressers from being able to go there, because then you can say,
Yes.
hey, my ID says this, and you can, and so it shows that you've actually taken steps. It doesn't.
Yes.
It's not about passability. It's about how long you've actually been taking the steps to transition.
See, before we get to the next prompt, I just love Sarah. I do. Like, I think Sarah's really good. That was a great one. Like, I think that, you know, if you are really trans, you should have like you should have some like 2 years of experience before you can go into like the women's restroom or something like that. You know, I think that would be good. That would like abolish the issue that's going on right now in America and in other places as well that I've seen. So I really agree with that.
I support the transgender military ban.
Mm. Mm.
For a shot at millions and cash prizes, play the Millionaire Club Scratch Off from the Kentucky Lottery.
I think that oftentimes when you talk about trans people in the military, people forget that most places, if we're talking about feet on the ground and really going into war zones, are really dangerous for trans people. And so it's a real.
Will I walk up, if I was there, will I walk up to this prompt? I don't really know. I wish there was like a way where they put like, are you like neutral on this? Like, I wish there was a way that it doesn't have to be like you're either for or you're not. Like, you know, so I think that I think when it comes to, you know, the military, is a lot of things that you can't have in order to be in the military, right? And I've been knowing about this for a very long time. You know, and I think that especially if you have mental disorder, I don't think that it would be the best for our soldiers to be, you know, mentally not really there in the brain to be serving our country, really. But I think that it would be great for, like, you know, if there was doing something else in the military, probably like being a nurse or something like that. I don't know, but I don't know how I would like go into this prompt. Honestly, I don't know if I sit down or not. I think I probably will sit down.
An extra risk.
You're talking about the culture that exists over
Yeah,
there.
the Middle East, you know, it's like
So
that's not exactly
the
trans
friendliest
friendly.
place
It's
for
actually
us,
the opposite. The medications that we take sometimes put us in conflict with being able to actually be combat ready. But there is some nuance here, obviously. Like, if there was a trans cook or a trans medic, I'm not exactly going to be upset. But for the most part, when it comes to combat,
I hate supporting, like what you just said. I hate supporting it because it goes to the narrative of the should athletes compete in sports, you know, but
trans athletes,
the drugs we take
They shouldn't.
do weaken us,
She's
you know,
funny.
so we're not, like you just said, combat ready, but we're also not as physically strong as the guy counterparts standing.
I feel like Jessica wanted to say that, like, she wanted to defend, you know, trans women being in women's sports because she claims that the hormones weaken them, and I feel like that's very illogical. It's like, you're still a man. If you are Jessica's age, you probably have already developed, so it would not be the best thing to do to be competing against women in sports, okay?
And I will say, like, as a person with HIV, I was diagnosed at 18. I couldn't go into the military, because I couldn't get Biktarvy overseas.
Oh, wow.
You know? Yeah. So I will say, as probably the only person that served in the military on that entire panel.
You should smoke first.
It's okay. The thing about it is, I think there is a lot of nuance in this. I actually have friends that are currently serving in the military. I think there was a lot of misrepresentation of what the trans ban actually did. You know, you have soldiers, if you have surgeries, they go on profile, which means they can't actually do their job. They can't do PT. If you have bottom surgery, it takes a year. And so as a leader, that person's filling a position of a job of somebody that should be doing it. I don't mind somebody who is actually on hormones going there, because there's a lot of people. I mean, people take PTSD medications overseas. They actually take 6 months of medication with them. So a full-out ban, I don't necessarily support.
Yeah, me too.
Because I think that everybody in the military, as long as you can do your job, you can go in there.
I agree.
Nobody really cares. But it is those times when, if you can't perform your job, that becomes an issue.
Yeah.
You talk about with HIV, actually, most people don't even realize this. If you contract HIV while you're in, you can stay in a non-deployable job.
Right. And then also, you know, if we want to just get super real, you have the trans suicide rate. And if you really want to compound that by the veteran suicide rate, that's not exactly a concoction for very positive results. So I see how a trans ban could actually benefit us.
That is true. Like, if you are dealing with gender dysphoria and you have suicidal thoughts and stuff like that, you should not be, you know, serving this country. That's just how I feel. And I think that if that narrative is true, that all trans people, you know, not all, but a high percentage do suffer from, you know, suicidal tendencies, and they also regret their transition, or they also commit suicide even after the transition, and it's because they're having way more mental issues than gender dysphoria itself. I think that maybe they shouldn't have served in the military, you know.
And Lord knows I'm not trying to get drafted, so I'm all good.
You know, if they said that like homosexuality was a disorder, and then we couldn't go to like the we couldn't be drafted to the military, I'd be all for it. I honestly would. Like, I'm like, I don't even want no sir. I like, no. With all the bullshit that this country does, and they don't do shit for us, so why the fuck would I want to serve this fucking country? Even though I love this country so much, but at the same time, I would not want to be drafted. Period. Like, I just wouldn't. They probably wouldn't even draft me anyway.
I think it's very discriminatory to keep trans people out of the military. We pay our bills here. We pay our taxes here. We are Americans. We deserve to serve this country as well. However, you all did raise some great points about the concern and safety of trans people. And I do agree that something does need to be done about that to protect us. Who's protecting us in the military? Who is?
I mean, if you're even diagnosed with like mild social anxiety, you're not eligible to enter the military. If you have like a crooked left, you know, pinky toe, you're not eligible. So discriminatory, I mean, that word sounds pretty, in today's climate, very much like, oh no, discrimination, but it's not always bad. Sometimes it's for the safety, and it's like, you know, when it comes to the military, when it comes
jobs
to
discriminate all the time.
That has priority over anyone's feelings.
Discrimination.
You have the skills, you can't be in.
And I don't think there's.
Or if you're like ugly as fuck, you can't be in.
Still discrimination.
Sure. If you don't present yourself in a good way, you can't be in.
You're trying to, or protect them before.
Maybe different world companies.
It is important to protect all trans people in the military.
Well, we can't waste
and so what's the best way to protect them is not turning them into a lease with Muslims that are going to kill them.
Well, I just want to interject your point about suicide.
I like that.
So as somebody who has worked in community service with community members directly, a lot of their suicide issues actually revolve around access to finances. And the military is one of the highest employers of transgender people. So we actually see the suicide rate drop. And for me personally...
But it's one of the highest employers of anybody. But if you're suicidal and you go into a job that has a higher likelihood of PTSD, causing PTSD and all these other issues, then it becomes a big issue, because then you already have one mental illness, and then you're compounding it with more.
And when you're on, a very strict regimen of, if you're trans and if you're really trans, and we can get into who's really trans later because I don't have to say about that, but if you're going to be on hormones, right, you're not always going to have access to those drugs when you're deployed and when you're in those situations. That's why I say if you're, a line cook or something, if you're whatever, that's one thing. But if we're talking about combat, you're not exactly going to have access to your testosterone blockers and your
How do you know that?
That's true.
Because they don't have those kind of pharmacies in the Middle East.
Medical care is covered in the military, so they should have access to that. So that is false information.
And also, you guys are forgetting the fact. Well, hold on. You guys have all forgotten the fact of what is the flip side for these transgender individuals that are signing up for the military and they're taken out, and that was their life plan. Where are they supposed to work, and where is their employment supposed to be?
Find something else to do.
I agree, it's horrible.
And the lack of resources.
I agree, it's horrible.
So that is also the flip side of that. So if folks don't have, hold on 1 second, but if they don't have access to a job that could offer them support and research and access to medication, access to benefits, lifetime benefits, that's something that most transgender people in any sector of any job.
So do you want an answer to your question, or are you just going to rant? Because I can answer
exactly.
What about those people that were kicked out? I actually think it's bad if you are someone who was in it and you really are, because just like, Sarah, and I've met many trans veterans that I've paid respect to publicly on social media, and I think it's amazing, actually. So if you're kicked out and it was once, the norm
well,
that you
resources you're
I'm speaking though. If you're kicked out and it once was the norm for you to participate in the military, that's sad. But at the same time, if that is what is determined for the ultimate safety and effectiveness of the military, nothing should come before that.
Blair, have you ever worked directly with trans people? Have you ever worked directly?
I am right now.
No, directly in services in terms of nonprofits and actually getting clientele.
She's not grassroots.
She is not.
Are you kidding me?
Not grassroots, because truth be told, a lot of our community isn't grassroots.
Have you ever had a client list of transgender people that you actually took care of?
So, in order for you to support trans people, you need to be working for some woke leftist organization that only fucking helps like 5 people a day, basically. Probably not even that, really. Blair has done so much more than just being on the front lines of victimhood, and she's been spreading more awareness to garner more acceptance for the LGBT community as a whole, especially the trans community. With so many people on her side, so many people watch her every single week. So many people follow her, so she's reaching more people than these activists could ever do. And they're also lame and ugly too. So
Hold on just a second.
Took care of them paid their bills? No,
I'm sorry.
Offering them services, getting them through
I've helped a lot of
trans-led organizations that are ran by trans people. I really want to see what you've done for those organizations, because I don't see any of y'all on the front line.
Okay.
The front line? What are you talking about? I've dedicated. Hold on. I've dedicated.
So, in order for you to care about trans people, you need to work with a woke organization. I got it.
Dedicated my entire life to in my own way, and you can disagree with that because we all have our vehicles and our methods towards promoting trans acceptance and the ultimate progression of the quality of life of trans people. I've dedicated my entire life to that.
She sure has.
Right? I access millions of people every single month on all my social media. And I have people reaching out all the time saying that I've saved them from, just like we mentioned, suicide. Physically.
Have you ever taken on a client? Have you ever had someone come to you homeless and give them resources?
I'm sure you guys feel very... You guys are asking questions and you have no interest in the answer. I'm sure you guys are very proud of the fact that you can walk
circles, Blair. That's what we're saying.
How could it be a circle when I haven't answered the question at all because you keep speaking? I'm sure you guys are very proud that you can enter a building and work with 25 people at a time. I access millions every month. That's what I do.
Period.
It's really disappointing that you would ever equate.
This is disappointing, actually.
It's disappointing that you would disrespect all of the people that are in community service and all of these social workers that actually do help trans people.
And it's really disappointing that you guys are disrespecting what the fuck I do.
Right.
When you say something about what is grassroots, that's the problem that I feel that some trans people are disconnected. That is not a metaphor. That is a tangible resource organization. Because this is where y'all's privilege come in. Because if y'all don't need
bitch, tell it up here. You're on the same fucking panel with everybody else. Period. See, I live for him.
I create the resources.
Blossom's a racist. Period. Blossom is only about her race. Only black. Like it's always about her race. It's always about you versus me. Like you know what I mean? Like it's a very like us versus them kind of mentality. That's what I meant to say. Like just because she's in a room with people that are lighter skin tone, she believes that like she is inferior. Like she is not. She is inferior. She's a victim. She always have to play that card, and because that's all she's been like known as is just like the black trans woman that plays victim, and that's why she gets all these accolades going on CNN, the White House, many things. I used to watch I Am Kate. Like yes, I did. Like I watched I Am Kate when they first came out. I remember this bitch. I sure do. I remember when Caitlyn. Yeah, I know shit. But Blair hasn't been on any like you know big TV shows or whatever like that, or haven't been to the White House stuff like that. Like, so I don't understand how you're gonna come for someone's privilege all because they're a different skin tone to you. I get it. You're racist.
My content is
people. So we're gonna work with detransitioners who actually.
It's funny because Blair has done more than any of these people have.
We're not talking about love.
Oh my god.
It's the condescension for me, you know.
I will take a step back and let other people have.
I feel like so like Blair said, like when you want to go into the military, like they gotta like check you out and like are you fit to go into the military, whatever. For that reason, I don't feel like a ban on trans people in the military is necessary because I feel like who's ready to go to combat and who's ready to go in, like they'll get in. I think there are people who are like able to do that, maybe people who aren't. And I feel like that will be determined without just a ban across the board. And yeah.
So it wasn't actually a full ban, though. That's what people don't realize. Okay, so
you can still live.
Nobody got kicked out of the military. They didn't take a single person out of the military who came forward and had gender dysphoria. Two, it was actually easy. It's more open to serve under the ban than it was under Don't Ask, Don't Tell.
Yeah.
Okay. So you could actually be a trans person and present however you wanted off duty. You could go to a ball in a dress and nobody cared, and they couldn't kick you out. And serving in the military, it's not a right. They can disqualify you for any reason, physical, anything. People get kicked out all the time because they can't pass PT tests.
Right.
And overseas, you don't necessarily have access to refrigerators for your testosterone or any of that other stuff. So if you're taking injections, it's a lot different.
I'm supposed to refrigerate it?
I don't know. I don't take
and that's going to melt in the Middle East.
I'm dead.
That estradiol is going to be
Female hormones are not always refrigerated. Let's just make that clear.
Well, my concern would be that, like, who's joining the military not to serve in the country, but only to get the cheaper drugs and the paid-for surgery. And I don't want that trans person
joining the military because they got a woman pregnant and they just need to pay their bills. There's so many different reasons why people join the military.
There are easier ways.
Dedicated people that want to defend the country that I live in.
There are easier ways to get drugs. There are easier ways to get drugs than to join the military. That's a big commitment to get drugs.
Let's just put it this way. There are far less debilitating things that will disqualify you from access to the military than trans. And if you want to put it on a scale, trans is one of those things that for a lot of people is quite debilitating, whether it's mentally, physically, whatever. Sure. If you have, social anxiety, if you have depression, any of these things that are less mentally taxing than gender dysphoria, all those things, then why is it that we should have like a go around because we're trans? I go with what the generals say. I go with what the people at the top say. This is what is the most effective way to have our military.
Just not General Milley.
I just really hope that the people at the top.
Not him. You know what I mean? It's levels to that too.
I just really hope that the people at the top that you're referring to aren't transphobic, because let's be clear, the isms that are in the military.
We live in America. People are allowed to be.
I'm speaking. Do not interrupt a black trans woman when she's speaking.
You've interrupted me hella times.
Oh wow!
Did they interrupt her?
If you are black, if you are black and trans and you want to go into the military, I am quite sure that my experience would not look the same as y'all's. And if we can't wake that.
There we go. The victim, the mental in slavery. There we go, Blossom. There you go. You have to always put race into everything, right? You always have to put race into anything because that's all you have of value is to be a fucking victim. You fucking ugly ass cunt. Okay. I'm so sick of this fucking Party City wig that you have on, bitch. And these fucking two little glasses. People who wear glasses like that, they want to appear smart, but they're not fucking smart. They're dumb as fuck. And I'm so sick of people like that. Always have to fucking bump their gums when they're not even fucking smart. They have no value in anything that the fuck they're saying. None. Not one little sliver. So please, had a décolleté is giving man. It's giving man. Wear more long shirts, okay, and wear a long dress because we can see your hooves, okay. So you know.
Out there, we're really being
They don't
complicit.
look at your race.
I don't think your
But
skin tone makes any difference.
Well,
Somebody,
yeah, it does.
no,
But it doesn't.
as somebody who's
But it
saying,
doesn't.
for you to tell a black person that is as somebody who's saying, for you to tell a person of color,
Sarah, you could have put that bitch down.
This is my experience and this is my reality. First of all, that is so disrespectful to tell a person
I'm
of
gonna have an
color,
aneurysm.
a black
I'm gonna have
person,
aneurysm.
how they should feel. How dare you sit up there and say
no,
it's disrespectful for you to say, wait, hold on,
You screamed at me, and you yes, you did.
You're
You
screamed.
screamed. Rewind the tape.
You wanted me here and I'm
You
here.
screamed.
So what you gonna do? You wanted me here, so I'm here. You
Right. So we
Honey, the testosterone in that person, it's rampant. It's on fire. It can control itself. You know, like it has to shout, it has to be aggressive, it has to do all the things. Because that man is still in him. Okay? That man is still in him. Still in her. I mean her. It's in her YouTube. It's in her. And that testosterone is still in her. It's very strong and masculine too.
calm down. Speak me in particular. What are you talking about?
Look at Blair over there just sitting pretty. I love it.
Oh my god.
Can you please stop? We're good.
You
And
need to calm
Sarah.
down.
No, you do, honey.
Oh my god. Someone get a Xanax for her.
Keep it cute, girl.
Someone get some estrogen for her.
The bodyguard's
appropriate,
outside,
but the rest of the shit
real
is
cute,
good.
The rules are you cannot speak when somebody else is speaking.
Okay.
Okay?
I would never listen. I would never listen to that. I'd be like, what? I'm going to speak. Wait, I'm sorry, I'm going to speak.
I feel like there's a little bit mixed in there.
Yeah, I agree with what y'all were saying. It wasn't really like, I thought it was great.
There's
Yeah,
obviously a
we
lot of
disagree.
edits in
That
this
was
too.
I feel like it was really interesting hearing your perspective about being in the military, and I don't know if there's really like a true middle ground found, but I feel like I have like a better understanding of kind of where you're coming from with it.
Yeah.
And I feel like a lot of points make sense, and it's also an issue that is hard to get a definitive answer and agreement on.
I can
Everybody
agree.
doesn't have
Agree
the
with
same
that
struggle.
with Sasha.
And that does include in
He
the
looks like a
military.
Cody to me. He should have changed his name to
Some
Cody.
people in our community have to go through much more extremes than others. And so for me, my question becomes, how are they being taken care of? Especially when a trans person comes out in the military. Yeah, we have these things enacted, but that
That is
doesn't mean
a
that in
thick wig
reality,
right
in
there.
physical time, that they're being treated under what is
That wig is
in the
lifting.
law that's supposed to protect them. So that's where I'm coming from, or whatever, because reality and what's on
Is that a
paper
shake
are
and
two
go?
different things.
But they are. So this is again the culture of the military. This is a debate that we have as civilians that the military doesn't have. Okay, just plain and simple. If you can do your job, nobody cares who you are, what you do, what your extra.
Because I've seen so many black people go into the military, even like gay blacks and stuff like that. So like, what? Why does it matter about your race? It's not about race. It's about, are you a skilled person? Are you a valuable person? Or do you have what it takes? Are you mentally clear? You know, like
Curricular activities outside of the military are. All they care is that they can count on the person to the left and right of them. And again, like I said before, in the very beginning, if you can't deploy and you can't go do your job, then there's really not a big reason for you to be there.
And to agree with your point, I'm not in the military, nor am I a military general, but I trust that military generals know how to get their troops deployment ready. And if someone is able to go through all the rigorous steps, take out the trans, but they've been able to meet medical, health, all of the hoops that need to be met, I don't see any reason to take away someone's opportunity to serve this country and to be proud of serving this country, because being American is something to be proud of.
Yeah, and like the trans ban didn't actually do that. Like I said before, you just couldn't go actually like take hormones and transition while you were in, and it was a lot different because I served in 2010 to 2011 before Don't Ask, Don't Tell was repealed, so I know what it was like before that as well.
And I totally agree with what you're saying. So there's some middle ground.
Let's go, people.
There, Paul.
Schools should include trans conversation in sex ed.
Join our middle ground Patreon to watch this exclusive prompt.
it's okay for minors to get top surgery.
Now we already know. I would have been the first one to right after she said that. I'd be the first one to walk up. Like, you have to be a fucking mental case to be thinking that a child should be able to get their breasts removed simply because they're insecure about their breasts, or they're having some type of mental disorder going on. Like, I don't even think that now in this climate, I don't even think that it's a mental disorder. I think it's aesthetic, and it's like a trend now, because it also plays into like girls being insecure too, and like going through puberty, and they it's weird to grow breasts and stuff like that. So I think that a lot of kids can regret that, if they go into this and they get involved in like this lunacy that's going on, especially on TikTok with these different pronouns and the trans stuff. So no, I would not be staying up there. I would be going to the fucking floor. Period.
Really?
Every single one of them. Every single one of them.
I feel like
That's
the
pretty
vibe
wild.
is like I like, as someone who had top surgery and went on hormones, like, it's a very emotionally intense experience. I think in terms of like minors getting surgery, like, the reason why I'm not like no to that is because I feel like maybe someone's like 17 or something. I honestly feel like it is a really intense surgery, but I feel like if somebody's like 17 or like late 16 and like feels like it's right for them, I mean, like, people are really different.
No.
I know for me, like,
Too young.
top surgery when I was like 16 would have been like so good, and it would have literally like saved my spinal cord from like binding all the time. That's why I'm like, yeah, like, I feel like in instances like it can make sense.
No.
So I'm not a trans man, so I don't have the experience or whatnot, but I do think that it has to be done safely. There is a process when it comes to
You're a
having
trans
these
woman.
types
It's
of
like
gender
similar.
affirming surgeries.
Like, what?
You know what I'm saying? Talking with your parents, and then going to endocrinologists and going through therapy to make sure this is right for you. People have a choice to their autonomy. Now, I know that everybody does not, but those that do or whatnot should choose with the right medical education.
Yeah.
They should choose with safety and with full understanding of what is a benefit and what may.
But see, like, the big pharma doesn't give a fuck about that. They're letting confused children go into their offices, and they are to the doctor's office, and they're getting the shots within a day without any other evaluations. So no, like, I'm sorry, but no child should be fucking transitioning. Period.
Not be a benefit. I agree with a caveat that there does need to be some sort
Why
of
the fuck are you
process,
talking?
which there is, by the way, in place.
Yes.
Well, that's a clown talking.
Yes, things happen because, again, as I said earlier, this is a big world.
Even though things happen,
then people,
why do you agree with that though?
To walk through a door that you have walked through, I'm going to say this again, and then close it behind you. It's a little bit of a slap in the face for anybody.
I found it ironic how, like, the people that are on the panel, most of them have transitioned to when they was well into their adulthood. Obviously, Miss Blossom has. I mean, it's a brick house, so of course it's going to, like, not understand and comprehend the dangers of being on hormones and stuff like that at a very young age. Especially if you do it at a very young age and you want bottom surgery or something like that, which I don't 0 out of 10 never recommend. If your penis doesn't grow a certain point, you don't have enough meat to even make the neo vagina. I mean, look at Jazz Jennings and look at her now. She's a mental case.
Who's seeking a transition.
Yeah.
And as somebody who has experienced top surgery and also waited quite a bit of time, a lot of severe damage actually was created to my rib cage that my wife, who is half my size, actually has the same size rib cage in the back as mine. And these are permanent damage to my body because I binded for about 8 years, and there's even still issues that I have with breathing and certain issues that I face that unfortunately,
really
if I had that surgery a lot earlier, I would have a better posture. I'd have a lot of pain that is not within my body that I have to deal with on a daily basis, while simultaneously.
So simply because it was an inconvenience of wearing a binder and you put it on too fucking tight to make your chest flat, it still does not mean that a child should consent to removing their breasts. No child can consent, okay?
The idea that, I get maybe under 16 top surgery would be something that would possibly even make me a little uncomfortable, but I also know that I was homeless at 16, paying my own rent, and left my home at 16 and had to live my life as an adult very early. So
you cannot equate literally moving out of your own fucking parents' house into being being as an individual that's being that was raised fast, like that made yourself become an adult even faster at a young age. Does not mean that you can make the decision to alter your body forever. Paying bills isn't forever. Oh well, it is forever, but it's not a life altering decision on your body. It's a major difference. That's what I'm trying to say.
I was able to make those decisions for myself, but I think it's weird that others can't seem to see that I could make a medical decision for myself when I had to physically take care of myself. And I look at some of these younger kids,
that person even look
and
happy.
There's a sense of jealousy there and excitement for them at the same time, because they now have access to memories and being in the space and being in a comfortable body that, I had a lot of isolation growing up in my childhood because I didn't feel comfortable to present in a female space or a male space. I was isolated constantly from school, from the outside world, from my family. And my transition, my top surgery has done nothing but take physical pain off my body, especially with as large chested as I was and having to bind for as many years as I did.
So sad.
I don't think any minor should be having life-altering elective surgery or life-altering elective medicalization, period.
Period.
And so when I work on bills across the country that do ban this for minors, there's a couple things I point out. I point out that I don't think a 16-year-old female who wants breast implants should be able to get that either.
True.
When we look at what we allow minors to do,
she can regret like Kylie Jenner did with her face.
Life-saving. They're not. If you don't get it,
children can consent at a young age.
It's not like getting having appendicitis and having your appendix removed or anything like that. It's elective. I think that's the key point here. Agreed.
My thing about surgery, I'm actually vehemently against surgery, like all of it, top surgery, bottom surgery, all of it. Particularly because you need your genitals. Like, it's just that simple. You have these people now who have non-functioning fake penises and vaginas that, you've had issues like, for instance, Richie had where like your urethra folds in half and then you can't pee no more.
This is about
are you against top surgery too?
Yeah. I mean, just surgery in general. I don't think that's necessarily like you said. It's not like you have appendicitis. It's not like you've got like a bone spur. It's you don't.
I disagree with that because I was in physical pain, and the moment that I got that top surgery, the pain was.
Well, that means you needed a breast reduction, my friend.
No, it's just binding, dude. Binding goes crazy.
I mean, I binded for 8 years. I know, it sucks.
But if you just keep binding, honestly, my ribs are I'm ew, I hate my ribs. They're all messed up.
Is that an issue with safety of binding though? I'm actually curious.
Yeah, honestly, the thing is too, I think it comes with the size of your chest. So I had a big chest, so I had it was the only way. You know what I mean? And I did try and bind safely, and I did buy reputable binder brands, but.
Look at my face the whole time. I'm just
doing it for a really long time and also
3 days straight.
I know, me too. And that's what's you're not supposed to.
Was your doctor telling you that's not safe because you're not even supposed to wear 24 hours?
My doctor's old school.
Yeah. But and I did have to go through very.
So they did it to themselves, right? They made some big inconvenience so they can have so they can have the story that binding is so miserable. So it's the best way to do it is just to have surgery and cut your breasts off. Okay, I just cannot stand these people sometimes. I really can't.
For top surgery and testosterone, I had to go through a really big process, and I think that's my thing. Is instead of an age thing, I think there's there should be a process. You should have to live as that gender and be seeking care and be having a therapist for long term and a psychiatrist.
But the therapists aren't telling you the real truth. They're not really helping you.
Really
they're just medicating them.
To the person, and I think would be really rare anyway. But that's just my stance.
That I agree with to an extent.
This is
I love
definitely the prompt that I am the most passionate about because I think there are few things more vile, more irresponsible, more, dangerous than saying a child can consent to permanently removing a body part that serves an extremely important function.
Exactly.
Detransitioners all over the country can never breastfeed their children if they can even have them, because if they did other things, that can stop them from having kids at all, right? The idea that a child can consent to a sex change, to a gender affirming surgery, if you believe that, there's really nothing that you can believe they can't consent to.
Right.
Because that's
if a child can consent to permanently taking off their body parts, why is this such a big issue if they want to consent to having intercourse with an adult? Think about it. So like it's such a slippery slope. If you think a child can consent to that, like it's a slippery slope, and you are indeed a groomer.
pretty extreme. That's permanent body modification under the best circumstances. So you want to move aside all the complications, all the things you can't do, the sterilization, not being able to feed your kids. You can even set that aside. Just the permanent body modification. I mean, you have to be so demented to believe that a child fully understands. I heard a few conversations about, well, if the child fully understands, they don't.
They don't.
They don't, because they're children. That's like how being a
Like
child
a
works.
17-year-old, like if a 17-year-old's like living as male for like 5 years.
The prompt is about minors, and 12-year-olds are getting top surgery. So it's easy to say, well, if it's 17-year-olds, okay, well,
In my state, that's actually
there's a
legal
nuanced
age.
conversation about even 17-year-olds, I guess, because the age of consent in some places is lower, but that's not what's happening, right? It's 12-year-olds.
When we talk about minors, it's like, what age range are we really talking about here?
Anyone
because
Right. Anyone under 18.
The thing is, when we talk
Took
about
the words
these
right out of my mouth.
transitions and whatnot, all I hear is a lot of regret, right? Regret that they got these surgeries, regret of the complications, regret, and that's fine. I'm not taking away anybody's experience because these things do happen. But let's also remember, again, there is a process. Now, I have a lot of empathy
Not
for
a very
those
long
transitioners
process.
that have gone through the process and they are suffering.
But it's
do
not
have
just
empathy for
detrans
that.
people. It's
But
not just detrans
But that's where
people.
I'm just talking about in the conversation, for this particular conversation. And I understand what you're saying, because you're absolutely right. There are more people.
Even among adults, we all do different things in our transition. Some of us want bottoms, some of us don't, some of us want tops, some of us don't.
Some of them regret it. I've seen the stories, even them as trans people.
To figure out what you want to do.
But see, the thing is, though, some adults don't even understand what they want to do.
Exactly.
But the children, wait a minute, let's not underestimate the power of these kids today.
Oh my God,
okay?
she's so wishy-washy. She wants to agree with Blair, but she can't because she's such a moron.
So let's be
So
very
they're
clear
advanced,
about that.
and they can
when we
consent.
talk
Who
about
else
these
says that?
transitioners, that was the
Groomers.
topic here or whatnot, because I want to bring these transitioners in to the room, so there's a space. Thank you.
To your point about the reason why I'm against it is because, like you said, the children need to go through the proper steps, the parents, the doctors. But in the state of California, if you, as a parent, tell your minor, no, you're not getting this, I'm not affirming your gender, I'm taking your kids away, and California is going to raise your kids for you.
That's fucked up.
That's not right. We also know that, like, all those safeguards that you're talking about, they're not happening.
Yeah, that's
they're
what
not
I'm saying.
happening at all.
California will take your kids.
We know because there was a whistleblower out of St. Louis, and this isn't some conservative whistleblower. She was married to a trans man, and she considers herself queer. So she blew the whistle and said that they had an in-house doctor. If you couldn't find a affirming therapist to sign off on the form, they would pencil whip it.
I remember
But
that.
do you
Yeah,
believe
I
that
read
it should
about that earlier this
Do you
year.
believe there should be a process when it comes to medical transition?
No, there's no right process for kids to have.
Oh no,
right.
Right.
Well, I answered because I'm here in the room. So
no. Okay. Thank you.
I feel like personally, like if we're talking about like a 12-year-old getting top surgery, like to me that's just like medical malpractice. Because I know.
Then why wouldn't it be
to get top
medical
surgery, like, I couldn't
malpractice
get it at
under
18, so my insurance
18?
covered at 18. But I
What's so
think
wrong
that
with waiting to
process,
18 like the rest of these motherfuckers
even
have?
This is a long process. So I think there's like an area of literal like
There's like
medical
sadness in that one
malpractice
guy's
because no
eyes.
like kid at that age
Like, he's
should be
sad.
getting on
Something's wrong
my
with
thing
him.
because you do not know. But I do think there are instances where like a 16 or 17-year-old like could get it, and I don't know if that means like banning like below 16 or like whatever. But
so in the UK, it was the I can't remember what it was. It's the reason why they're shutting down the Tavistock clinic in the UK though, is because they found that when you start a child on hormone or on puberty blockers and hormones, it's basically a foregone conclusion that they're going to end up having surgery. It puts them on a path to sunk cost fallacy. I don't
even social transition. I'm very against social transition. I really am for children. I'm very against social transition for a child because I think that it puts them on the path for hormones, and once they get on hormones, they're on to surgery and stuff like that at a young age. Especially if they start really young. Now, I'm not saying like if you as a boy is dressing up as a girl or stuff like that, but you telling people to like call you by your girl name or like referring to you as she, her, stuff like that. I think because conditions a confused child to think that they are the opposite sex already, so that makes them want to go to the next step. So that's my thing on that.
Understand this obsession with other people's children.
It's about caring about kids.
I got you talking. Oh my god.
Oh my god.
Together.
I have it together.
Why are you even there, clown?
Yo, the obsession. The obsession with the conservatives.
It's not an obsession. It's about caring for children. Clown. And beret. Bitch, you're not in France. Bitch, you're in America. Take that shit off. I'm just saying. Like, it's not an obsession. It's about, it's about the children, basically. It always has been. Like, what's so wrong with waiting until you're 18 years old to make that decision to transition? If you really are trans, why you can't wait till 18? Why? Because the doctors are telling you that you'll commit, you'll off yourself because of that. So if someone tells you you're gonna off yourself, that means that you really are gonna off yourself. Like, no, you're not. Like, please. It's just it's just a narrative to get you to be trans so they can medicate you and so you can be a lifetime, lifetime guinea pig basically for big pharma. So that's why people are so concerned about children, especially because of the gender ideology that's being on social media and being in classrooms, especially in woke liberal schools and stuff like that. So that's why people are like quote unquote obsessed. They're concerned, not obsessed. Okay, you dumb clown fuck.
About other people's kids. If it is your child, it is your choice what you do with your kid.
No, it's not always. No.
16 and the level of consent in the state of California.
When it comes to removing your child's genitals, that is not a moral thing to do just because that's your child, okay? Period.
From my understanding, someone who's 16 can also drop out of high school, which would severely affect their life. And they had access to that decision if they want to, because say they want to get a diploma.
It's not body modification. What are you talking about?
But they have that option to make that choice at 16. I will agree with you that
they have bad parents. They should not be getting out of school at 16.
Surgery completely, because there's still a lot of the world for them to learn about themselves, how to navigate it, etc., etc. But for us to have access to be able to drop out of high school if we wanted to, and make such a life-changing decision that could affect...
Okay, but it's not a permanent thing on your body. You can go back to school.
Then to say, you know what, you're not old enough.
You can get your GED, right? So stop.
Me, again, as somebody who was 16 and was in such a religious family and all the restrictions that I had, if I didn't have access to those things, I don't know if I would be here. And
oh my God.
Through my transition and through my...
You wouldn't be here because you are a sad person, okay? If you look in this person's eyes, you think that's a happy person? This person's not happy. I don't care what no one says. This person is not happy. If you was happy with who you are, you would never change who the fuck you are in the first place. And the sadness still lingers in your eyes. You have a lot of family trauma. You told on yourself in the beginning. You had a lot of people bullying you. I'm pretty sure that some men probably did do some things to you because I can tell. I can tell from a mile away. Because you seem like you are a victim of something that has happened to your life. Because there's no way that you're over here trying to claim that just because you were going through something in your life, it did not make you become trans. I definitely believe it did. I believe something has happened to this person. They're not telling the full story. They probably won't. something has happened to this person, and this person has a lot of deep-rooted insecurities and issues that should have been solved before transition, like Elliot Page.
Access. And I even grew up in the wild, wild west where everything was still on YouTube and we didn't really even have medical providers really even giving us guidance, and especially trans men. So I find it rather uncomfortable that we're able to make a 16-year-old be able to make that type of decision. An 18-year-old is allowed to go into service, but for some reason we can't give that same access to a kid to have that consciousness. Because I can tell you at 16, I knew who I was. I'm not at 12, not at 14, but 16, there's a certain level of consciousness and experience that you've experienced in society that you understand the pocket you fit in.
But just because other bad things happen doesn't mean that that is okay. It's like, so just because they...
But wait, but didn't he say that he didn't fit in, though? Like, what pocket did you fit in? Which you feel like you fit in with the men? But I thought the men assaulted you. I thought that... What? Something about this person's story just does not add up to me. You know, I'm sorry. Like, this person, I was keeping my eye on this person the whole time. Something's wrong with this person, I'm telling you.
Can drop out of school means they should be able to cut their wrestle?
Non-binary should not be considered under the trans umbrella.
This is my favorite one. It should not be considered in no umbrella. It shouldn't be even in considered the LGBT community, period. I think that this identity is false. It's not real. You're only either a man or a woman, period. I don't validate the NBs out there. The NBs out there, I don't validate them. I think it's a farce. I think that you are just an androgynous man or female, and you just want to be included in the club, especially when it comes to trans community. That's just how I feel. And a lot of these people too, they claim to be non-binary because it's easy. It's not trans. It's not medical. It's not a mental condition, really. You know, it's a performative. It's something they've created to try to interject themselves in the LGBT community. They don't have no gender dysphoria. They don't have no issues. They just like to wear different clothes and to be androgynous. That's all it is.
I think that the concept of a transgender umbrella is inherently an issue, right? Because when you're talking about something as nuanced, complex, full of social dynamics, medical dynamics, so many things to be considered. When you're talking about a transsexual, you should really be specific, right? And this entire concept actually of transgender is relatively new. Like, it came about in the 70s or 80s through queer theory, when originally it was about transsexuals, which was considered a medical diagnosis, which was a medical process, and it defined something very specific. So for me, when I hear that non-binary, which, if I'm to understand correctly, means that
androgynous.
Right, and it means you identify somewhere in between male and female. That's not what a transsexual is.
The definition of a trans person is somebody whose body has been altered, or somebody who identifies as a different gender whose body's been altered by hormones or surgery.
And there's two genders, so if you want to say, you identify as a different gender, it had to be one of those two, which would make you a transsexual if you're actually trans. I think it makes about as much sense as saying that bisexual is under the straight umbrella. It's like, no, that's a separate thing. And I think there's beauty in being separate things. There's beauty in having your own lanes. And my concern is there's so much, clearly, as we see today, really heated conversations about trans people that when you start adding in queer theory, non-binary, it just makes it muddy, and the people at home, don't
Can't
know
understand,
what the fuck you're talking about.
Here's the thing about a lot of the people who identify as non-binary, so to speak. When they do so, they typically don't medically transition.
That's true.
When you do so, that at that point, it's a costume.
Right.
Well, it's gender nonconformity, right? And so
because they can take this off. I can't take this off.
Yeah, as Blair's saying, when you look at gender nonconformity, which used to be okay. You can wear what you want. You can present however you want, but it doesn't make you something different. You can't, as Blair was saying, it comes out of queer theory, which is postmodern neo-Marxism, which means that there's no such thing as absolute truth. They don't believe there's truth, so it kind of erodes the structure of society. And it's actually really regressive in a lot of ways, because you end up getting it to where it's literally based off of stereotypes, which we've tried to for so long get rid of. Like, it's okay to be gender nonconforming male or gender nonconforming female, and that didn't make you non-binary. It didn't
Sarah's
make you
very
trans.
intelligent. I like
When
her a
I
lot.
meet a trans person, right, like a trans woman, a trans man, there is an inherent camaraderie. Like when you mentioned I can't take this off, part
Right.
of me almost got a little bit emotional. I know it's hard to believe people think I have emotions, but I really do. And because I saw you in that moment, and I said, you know what, we are similar in that way. We may be different in other ways. We don't know each other very well, but we have that. When I talk
Exactly.
to or I'm around a non-binary person, it doesn't really
Mash.
click. It doesn't connect because it is so different. So I think that's inherently, I should be able to see some semblance of my own issue within that person, and I don't when they're non-binary at all.
And so I have no issue with non-binary people. I just don't think that we're the same.
Yeah, same.
And so
I
when
agree.
like I was saying before, like when our acceptance rate has completely been destroyed because these people are initiating violence in our name, they're going to self-ID out of the category, and then we're going to be the ones left holding the bag.
Right.
Yeah, it's just, if sex is a binary and you're neither of those, then you're not trans.
Right.
I think it would be really hard for a cis person to truly imagine what it's like to be trans and what it's like to live with that and be born that way. And I'm not non-binary, and so I really cannot picture what it would. I'm a binary trans person. I can't imagine what it's like to be in between that. But just like how the cis person can't really truly understand that, it doesn't mean that it's not a thing and it's not real. And I really believe that we have like 85.
You know something? In a way, well, of course, this person's not binary, not non-binary, but Sasha does have both experiences of living as a woman before, and also living as a man. Because once you do transition, you know, and you are transsexual, you do live totally two experiences in one life. You live as a woman, and you're treated as such, and present as that as such in society. And you can be treated differently than being a man. So it is really true. I feel like it is true that they are kind of in between. Even Blair White in between. She was once a boy presenting as a boy. She had a different experience. So they do live in between lives. Period. Despite them trying to present as one, but they are two entities basically.
Years like on this earth, and like so many people,
which is beautiful.
spend so much time being like sad and uncomfortable in their bodies. And if we were just all comfortable, like if somebody like wants to go by a name and like dress a certain way, and they are saying this makes me so comfortable, this is what makes me happy, there is no reason they shouldn't do that. And my God, there is no reason why we should say, well, you're not a part of this because like this is us and like this is whatever.
But that's not trans.
We could all sit here and agree that like non-binary people are like not a part of the trans community or whatever, which is not my opinion. But we could that doesn't change anything. We have a vast community. And I believe that non-binary people are a part of the community because I have so many shared experiences with so many non-binary people I know. We have very similar experiences in growing up with dysphoria, with transition, with anything. And nobody has to do anything. Nobody has to transition in the way they don't want to transition. And yeah,
well, then you are going to erase what you are. You are not trans then. At this point, if you feel like you relate to a non-binary person as a trans person, you're not trans. You went through medical sterilization, cut off your breasts and everything like that, just so you can be erased by non-binary people.
Let's be a happy family. My God, let's all just be happy.
Let's all be happy.
Or fight the fight together.
Yeah, let's do it.
We have separate fights, though. That's the thing.
Right.
I don't know if it is. We're weakening our borders by creating this divide within our own.
And bitch, you are illegal. You are illegal. Because why are you jumping over the trans border when you are an illegal non-binary immigrant? I would just like to know why. It's so funny how a clown can just waltz into any other spaces, illegally jumping over the border.
Community, this is so silly. Look, I actually understand a lot of the points that are being made here from the conservative side because I grew up conservative. I voted when I was 18. I voted for fucking Bush. Yeah, girl. I was conservative. Okay, we're the same age. So it was not until my later age that I kind of decided, you know what? Let me be more open to different types of communication, different types of people. I actually talked so much shit about pronouns,
You talked so much shit before, so you was on the right path before, but then you were. See, this I can already read this person. This person goes with the wind. I've seen this person online. They go with the wind. I don't believe that they believe anything that they're saying. I think they have been conditioned to think that they believe what they're saying because they are getting so many views, so many I've seen a person talk, and gone viral many times. I have. I think that it's just a costume for this person to get attention and to be able to be in spaces that they don't belong into, just so they can get accolades for it, like a Dylan Mulvaney.
They, them, all this. I was like, what is this trash? When it first started really coming out, I did not disagree. I did not agree with it. I was like, what is this? This is stupid. How can you be a them? Blah, 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 blah.
You were correct.
I did the whole
you were
thing
correct.
Grammatically. You're interrupting me.
But you were correct. I'm agreeing.
They asked you not to comment, and you're commenting. So if you could stop, that'd be great.
Oh, thank wow. You.
So anyway, as I was saying, so I changed my mind because I got to spend time around other people who were non-binary, who were non-conforming, and I got to speak with them, and I got to experience their life and their experiences.
You got brainwashed.
I realized myself, I'm like, shit, maybe this is what I've been experiencing my whole life, only because I was exposed
maybe.
to it. If I would have never been exposed to it, I would have never known that this could have been my experience.
Wow. You just told on yourself. So the only reason why you claim to be non-binary is because you were influenced by other people. You don't know who you are. If you did, you would know that you are a man dressed in a clown outfit.
And I would have lived the rest of my life as a different person, as somebody who I'm not. And it's funny that you keep talking that some people
but he wasn't before.
Keep talking about, oh, you need to.
I knew what I was before I became a right winger.
In order to be trans.
I know I was a leftist. I was woke.
I never said it's just so.
But I knew who I was then.
You're still interrupting me while I'm talking. This is the second time.
You're addressing me.
This is the second time now.
If you can claim someone said something they didn't say, they should be able to correct you in the moment.
Do you feel good now that you said what you needed to say?
I feel fine.
Wonderful.
I'm sitting pretty. I'm fine.
So.
I'm sitting pretty.
Sometimes it's like the power that needs to hold me back.
I mean, you're appropriating a medical condition. That's what you're really doing.
I exist. I am proof that non-binary people exist and that it is a thing. And because I'm sitting right here in front of all of you, I'm a real person. This is my experience, just as yours. Sorry, it's just as yours is.
There you go, the tears.
That as a trans woman, as a trans man, or as whatever. But I'm not here to belittle your experience or to tell you that you don't exist. And that's
the person just told on themselves. You just told on yourself that you have a different experience from being a trans woman, a trans man. You didn't say that you were trans. You said that you were not. It's different. Shouldn't be considered under the trans umbrella. Shouldn't even be an umbrella, period.
The difference between you and I, that you're trying to cancel you. And when I say you, I'm talking about conservatives.
Me.
And maybe it is you. You're part of the thing. You're part of the thing.
Here's where I get to interject because there's a lot of things said about me.
Addressing her. Just talk to everybody.
But what is your dysphoria?
Well, there was something. Okay. So another complete, I don't want to say the word lie, but I guess that's what it is about what I've said here, right? I never said you don't exist. So we can have a long list of things.
That's what they love to do. They love to be like it's a genocide, basically.
You're here. You're not fictitious, right? My point is, you're different than me, and I don't even think you deny that, but yet when I say it, it's an issue.
Right.
The same way that he said he can't take that off, you can, right? It's different. At the very least, it's different. And when we have a community that there are so many categories, demi-girl, demi-boy, astrosexual,
it's confusing.
But y'all can't fathom that maybe that would be a different category than what I am when we have such different, as you keep saying, and everyone keeps saying, experiences. It doesn't make sense. A bisexual is different than a gay man.
Right.
Can I ask you a question? I actually want to ask you a question. What is your dysphoria, though? Because gender dysphoria, or sex dysphoria, as I would rather call it, is an uncomfortability between my secondary sex characteristics. Not just what I wear on a daily basis, because masculinity and femininity doesn't have anything to do with being trans. But that's not true. But that is not true.
How is that not true?
You can have dysphoria without having to be dysphoric about your sex parts. But what is your dysphoria?
That's not what trans is.
What about their breast augmentation? They get breast augmentation.
It's not dysphoria.
That doesn't mean that I'm not dysphoric about certain things. That doesn't mean that.
Like what?
You're not in my life. Well, if I ask you a question, you don't know what I experience, the different things that I experience personally.
I cannot believe that I grew up as, this 5-year-old little kid experiencing just crippling gender dysphoria, like horrible thoughts, struggled so much my entire life, to be sitting in this room and you're explaining to her what dysphoria is.
I have my experience. It doesn't mean that I didn't have crippling.
You got a different experience.
You got a different experience.
We all have different experience. I know, but we're all both not.
Different things. That's it. It's that simple.
We don't identify as our gender at birth.
Obviously, I'm not a non-binary person, so I can't speak for non-binary people, but I can talk about what I've been taught by non-binary people.
Of course you would,
activist. When it comes to some non-binary people, sometimes they have to go into the gender binary for safety reasons, depending on the environment that they're in.
Oh my God.
Stepping into this world and...
But they don't change their gender. They don't change their gender. What are you talking about? They're claiming to be non-binary. And they expect people to think that they them. They're binary, period. Like, they are a man or a woman, period. Like, what are you talking about? It's so dumb.
Dismissing the gender norm of what people think a man and a woman is supposed to be like is so powerful.
When I look at this person, that's a man.
If you want to be mutable to the times of the expansion of the trans and non-binary experience, then just say that. I would rather you just say that you are not willing to move forward, learn the new terminology, learn the new pronouns that come with the trans umbrella and the trans experience for the most part. And also, I'm sorry, one more thing. And also, too, there are non-binary people who have different sexual orientations. Let's also name that, too. There are so many layers.
We're talking about non-binary versus trans, not sexual orientation. It's way different than that.
Non-binary is.
What's the definition? That doesn't make them trans.
Right.
Thing when it comes to, I agree with a lot of the things that you just said. I actually love you. I adore you. But here's the thing, right? That's not the prompt. The prompt was, is it different? Mm-hmm. And it is. Again, when I go out, I can't take my beard off, girl. It's not coming off.
Right.
Unfortunately, as much as I hate having facial hair despite being a guy, it. I can't go and reshape my body. I can't go and shave my Adam's apple down. I've been on this since I was 15. What if it had gone wrong?
So I have an interesting experience with non-binary myself, as someone who has presented as a
the sad otter man,
binary trans man.
It gives very otter.
I also don't take
very sad otter man.
So for me,
look at the eyes.
Especially
you see the eyes.
Transition, I took testosterone for a short period of time just to get the beard and the aesthetics that I wanted to in my transition. Once I reached those goals, I personally didn't want to lose my access to being able to give birth to a kid, especially with being with my wife for 17.
So this person is recognizing that on the hormones, it can affect your body in a negative way. So why would you want to put a fucking minor through that? You fucking evil piece of shit. When you know that there are women that, there are minors out here that are girls and that they potentially in the future want to have a baby or whatever like that. That you're putting those minors at risk when they don't know the full, they don't have the full education on what the cross-sex hormones would do to them in the long run, So that's my thing about him.
15 years, we've been wanting to have kids, so I wanted to, have a backup uterus, so to speak.
Backup uterus. Process, wow.
Doing that, I've discovered a lot about myself and my own identity of what is a man, what is a woman. And for me, when I take a look at the issue and the conversation, there's kind of two things happening. Simultaneously, our community is infighting with each other instead of looking outwardly at these structural systems that are
actually creating more issues, fucker.
Laws, politics, access to medical care, etc. While simultaneously, we see that the idea of fitting into the patriarchal structures, the misogyny, everything that is kind of placed in us, I don't subscribe to that. I mean, all my life have been breaking the rules of what a gender ideology is just by my pure existence. I didn't grow up with the idea of knowing what trans was my entire life. I discovered that actually being homeless. I didn't discover that through some collegiate access to college or influence from others. There was no one around me that knew or that I knew was trans. I discovered that myself. But as I've aged in my transition, because I've been trans for damn near almost 20 years now, I've discovered my own fluidity in that area because I actually enjoy my female side too.
Doctors are manipulating trans medical care.
Okay, you guys, I think we've been through what, an hour of this, and I think I'm done. This was really great. I love doing this. I would like to do this again. Honestly, I would like to do this on my membership only, which I feel like I'm giving y'all like too much. And you should definitely go like look at my membership and stuff like that. Period. Like get on that. It's only $5 a month. Support me, bitch. Like why not? I give you everything. I'm more authentic. I'm more authentic than any of these other bitches that you support out there. Okay. Period. Um, but this prom, doctors are manipulating trans medical care for sure. I think all of them should have came onto the panel, but you know, like the lefties over there, they can't think outside the box. They can't think outside the box. They don't think that that's happening, but it is happening. That they are manipulating children to like being trans, stuff like that. Like, how they not learn from big pharma? How they not learn from big food itself as well? They manipulate people to eat and to do things and to literally make them sick just so they can get more money for these big corporations. Like, obviously, they're manipulating people. Duh, they want your fucking money, you dumb fuck. So how will you not? How can you not walk up? I just don't understand it, but I am done with this. Just want to say thank you guys for watching. I love you so much. I hope you guys enjoyed this reaction to this Jubilee trans liberals trans conservative debate. It was fun. I'm not going to play all of it. I have a lot of thoughts still throughout the whole entire thing, but I'm just going to like keep it to myself. I think y'all have seen enough. So I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.